There's a moment in certain conversations where everything shifts and it's no longer about resolving anything. And if you've ever walked away feeling confused or like something just felt off, you probably hit that moment. I was talking about this on a live recently, and someone asked me a really good question. She said, "How would you want someone who wronged you to talk to you?" And I stopped for a second and said, "I've never thought about that, but let's go into it. That's a really good point. Let's talk about the turning point." So we started talking through it. And then I asked her, if someone was talking to you in a dismissive or defensive way, what would you do? And she said, "I'd walk away." And I said, "Absolutely." Because that right there is the moment most people miss. Breakdown. There's a point in a conversation where it stops being about resolution and starts being about avoidance. And avoidance is generally the thing that people use to push off a conversation that they don't want to have for various reasons. They don't want to deal with the emotional weight of the conversation because potentially they may have harmed that person and they don't really want to deal with the responsibility of it. They don't want to take the responsibility of it. They want to discount the person. So when someone starts dismissing what you're saying, they're clearly not going to resolve the situation. They're not even probably going to finish the conversation because they are going to figure out ways to divert your attention away from what you're trying to do because it doesn't serve them. Tell you that you're overreacting. And that is clearly a way not to continue the conversation, but to try to avoid it, to blunt it, to keep it from going any further. Or shift the focus onto you by maybe saying you're crazy, you're overreacting, you're too sensitive. That's not what happened. That's not how it went. And basically what they're saying to you is your experiences are invalid. Your experiences are not my experiences. And I have no reason to care that you feel like you've been violated or that you have been essentially, boundaries have not been set correctly or that I harmed you. And then there comes the mother of all negative things to say to someone during that. Excuse me. "I'm sorry that you feel that way," which is another way of saying, yeah, I'm sorry you feel that way, but it really has nothing to do with me because I'm not taking responsibility and I really don't care. So where does that leave you? And so you have to ask yourself, what relationship do you have with that person? Is that person a friend who you're trying to mend things with? Or is that person someone who constantly disregards your feelings and doesn't really care how you feel or where you're coming from? Because ultimately, if you don't share any common ground, what's the point in trying to work through something with someone who is trying to distract you and avoid the real issue that you actually came and sat down to talk about and to discuss? And so then they knew likely that that's what you were going to do, but yet they wasted your time and their own time by playing games rather than being upfront and honest and saying, "You know what? I really don't have an interest in discussing this." I mean, that would be much more straightforward than leading someone to believe that you were actually going to come with a meeting of the minds and have a discussion and an honest conversation, rather than playing games by gaslighting you and calling you names and essentially insulting you and calling you a liar. I mean, especially when you say that's what happened and they're saying that did not happen that way. I mean, there's no other interpretation, but they believe that you're not telling the truth or you're not being honest because they refuse to see what you're trying to point out. Or they even start calling you names, right? And I would consider calling somebody oversensitive a name. I would consider calling someone, that's not how it happened. Like clearly you're questioning their credibility. It's kind of like a defense attorney sometimes. You have someone who you believe Someone, the person who's testifying against your client actually has a crime of dishonesty, which is called a crimen falsi. And those are admissible into evidence to prove that somebody has been dishonest. And so those are actually relevant information that can prove that this person may be potentially dishonest in other areas of their life as well. So that is something in the legal world that we use. And also, at that point, they have raised the white flag and they have said, I'm not trying to work through this issue anymore. I'm done. I'm over this. This issue really means nothing to me. It means everything to you and nothing to me. So if that was a good relationship, solid relationship at one point, now it no longer, is that a relationship you're willing to continue? Probably not. You probably would be a lot like the lady on my live who said, I think I'm just going to walk away. Because what's the point? You'd probably get more relief from beating your head against a wall, right? Honestly, if they're just stonewalling you and gaslighting you and not being cooperative, what are you going to get? They're not addressing what happened. And that was the one thing that you were asking. And so ultimately they knew that going in, and they still continued to waste time, to gaslight you, to manipulate you. They're trying to get out of the conversation. It's like attacking the witness instead of answering the question. And for a lot of people, this is especially confusing because we were taught something very different growing up. We were taught to answer quickly, answer correctly, and sometimes even feel the right way. Even if no one said it out loud, there was the sense that there was a right response and that you needed to find it. So instead of communicating, we learned how to perform in conversations. And that's why these moments feel so disorienting as adults. Because we remember that as children. Being told to hurry up. Come on. Hurry up and answer. What's your answer? What's your answer going to be? And a lot of people felt their nervous system like shutting down, like they've had the freeze response because they knew there was a right answer, but it just went completely out of their head. And they knew that at times they were going to be told how to feel, but yet it was just really strange. Do you like that person? No, they make my stomach hurt. But can you pretend to like them? Why? That makes no sense. Because part of you is still trying to explain better, to say it more clearly, fix it, or get it right. Do what is expected of you. Set all of your thoughts aside, all of your opinions aside, who you are as a person aside, and do what I want you to do. Be my puppet. Do what I demand and what I say. You are my child. You are an extension of me. You will do as I say and not ask questions. Let's talk about the shift in the realization. But the truth is, once a conversation shifts into avoidance, it's not about how well you explain it anymore. The practical takeaway, that's the moment to recognize this is no longer a conversation that can be resolved right now. And sometimes the most appropriate response is exactly what my live viewer said, to walk away. Let's reframe. Not because you don't care, not because you're avoiding it, but because the conversation itself has already changed. In closing, if you've ever walked away from a conversation feeling confused, it might not be because you didn't explain it well enough. It might be because it stopped being a real conversation rather than a performance or a counterfeit conversation. If this resonates, this is something we talk about a lot here on my Grace and Gavel podcast, as well as my Recovering Perfectionist Mama podcast. both of which are on YouTube, housed on YouTube. So feel free to check those out if you like. Because a lot of us were taught how to perform in conversations, not how to actually have them, especially ones where we're seeking resolution. We weren't really taught that people can sometimes avoid resolution because they don't feel like it suits them or they don't feel like it serves them. So thank you for tuning in to Recovering Perfectionist Mama, Grace in Progress. And I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. It means a lot to me. And if you have some topics that you're interested in, feel free to check them out or feel free to drop them in the comments and I will take a look. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.